As you see in the title of this video is WWE Smackdown, is it the best wrestling show going on right now? And the reason why I came to this assumption, why I think Smackdown is the best wrestling show going right now, I finally saw the first Smackdown as far as start to finish since the switch up of the brands this past Friday on this past Friday night Smackdown. I gotta say, overall, this is probably definitely it's the best WWE show. Some people might argue if it's the best wrestling show going on right now, but I gotta say, overall, it's probably the most enjoyable wrestling show right now as far as TV-wise goes. And before I get into my thoughts on this past Friday night SmackDown, I just want to plug two channels. First one being Big Rat 310. Some of you might have been subscribed to his previous account when he got suspended for some dumbass copyright claim from WWE, and his new account is Big Rat 310, same name, but instead of the numbers 310, it's spelled out 310. I'll put the link in the description for that. And another account that I want to plug is Spiderweb WWE. He just recently started doing videos. So far, I've enjoyed most of his videos, and definitely I would say check both of them out. If you like them, subscribe to them. But now let me get back into my thoughts on WWE SmackDown. Definitely from the show overall, I gotta say there was some stuff I didn't like, but for the most part, I would say about 70 to maybe 75% of the show I enjoyed overall, which for a wrestling show on TV, and especially WWE these days, that's actually very good. I like the opening segment where Chris Jericho came out there and then Rey Mysterio. Then Chris Jericho got interrupted by Jeff Hardy, and then Teddy Long made a main event of SmackDown, Jeff Hardy versus Chris Jericho, and if Chris Jericho was able to defeat Jeff Hardy, he would get added to the match with Edge versus Jeff Hardy, make it a triple threat at Judgment Day. And definitely a good overall opening segment right there. And Jericho's doing a great job on SmackDown. I gotta say, in my opinion right now, I would still say Edge is probably the best heel in WWE overall. Randy Orton, I would say Randy Orton's starting to kind of get that Stone Cold reaction where they're probably going to have to turn him face sometime down the line, and I don't know if it's them meaning to kind of have him get that Stone Cold reaction, now since he's in that whole McMahon feud against the McMahons and Triple H. It might just be their way to kind of have him be a huge face down the line sometime in WWE, but you got to think if they do that with Randy Orton, then they're probably going to have to turn John Cena heel at some point down the line, or do something better with John Cena, because right now they're not really doing much with him at all, with the whole Big Show feud on Raw. But back to SmackDown, the first match on SmackDown, now this was the only match-wise that you could classify as a match on here that was not that good. Mike Knox is one of those guys that really bores the hell out of me. It was Mike Knox versus R-Truth. It wasn't a terrible match. R-Truth tried to make it as watchable as it could, but it was Mike Knox is one of those guys that just completely bores the hell out of me seeing him in the ring. He's like Gene Snitsky, or he's like TNA's Brutus Magnus. He's a guy that you don't really care about seeing, and every time they pop up on the screen, you're like, oh, great, another match from this guy. Then the next matchup was Michelle McCool versus Gail Kim, and for a women's match on TV, this got about maybe 5 to 6 minutes, if it got that. It was a decent match. Gail Kim probably pulled out one of the better matches of Michelle McCool as far as TV-wise goes. And Michelle McCool does go over after she hits her version of the Styles Clash, which she calls the Faith Breaker. And decent women's match. I'm glad they're starting to somewhat do something with Gail Kim, but I think they need to utilize her a little better, because I would much rather see, it looks like they might be going to a Melina versus Michelle McCool program. I would much rather see a Gail Kim versus Melina feud. I think that would be very good, especially since both of them are good in-ring performers. Michelle McCool is not terrible, but she's one of those female competitors in WWE that kind of has to be in there with a better women's wrestler if you want her to pull off, a watchable or a decent women's match. Then the next matchup was John Morrison versus Charlie Haas. I'm glad to see Charlie Haas is, back as himself and not doing these impersonating gimmicks that he was doing on Raw a long time ago. And hopefully, Charlie Haas stays with the company, because I remember when I did my draft video, when they did the supplemental draft, and switched Charlie Haas to SmackDown. I wouldn't be shocked if he's one of those guys that, every year when they do some type of switch up with the draft, some people within the supplemental draft sometimes get released not that long after, and hopefully he stays with the company, because I overall enjoy his work. Now, I understand why WWE doesn't push him that much because he doesn't have any good mic skills, and he really isn't over with the crowd. He's a good in-ring performer, but we all know Vince McMahon doesn't really care about that much. And I'm definitely glad to see John Morrison starting to get a push on SmackDown. So far as the split up of John Morrison and The Miz, both of them are doing pretty good as single stars. I guess it makes sense having Miz on Raw over Morrison being on Raw due to the fact Miz is a better guy at promos than Morrison, and SmackDown is kind of the more wrestling-oriented show, so it kind of works out better for Morrison being on SmackDown and not being there with John Cena, Triple H, and Randy Orton. Morrison, within a year, he could possibly be already in the title picture on SmackDown, be more believable than if he was on Monday Night Raw. Morrison goes over in this match. Now, the one thing that was kind of cool about this match, before the match even started, Charlie Haas came out there with Shelton Benjamin, so you kind of saw a little reuniting of the world's greatest tag team. I would love to see them team up again down the line sometime. Since the Colognes can go on all the shows and defend the tag team titles, I would really like to see the Colognes versus the world's greatest tag team of Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. I think that would be a very good match. And definitely, I say Shelton Benjamin, if they have Charlie Haas and him still be together, that's going to really benefit Charlie Haas, because Charlie Haas, he can go in the ring, but Shelton Benjamin's really going to help him. If Shelton Benjamin's out there with Charlie Haas all the time, maybe help Charlie Haas get some type of personality and be a little more charismatic than what he is right now. And it's definitely going to help out Charlie Haas overall with Shelton being out there with him. Then the next match was Edge versus CM Punk. And just like the week before, they did some good back and forth stuff. Enjoyed it. This match ended in a count out when Edge got himself intentionally counted out. So CM Punk wins this match via count out. So 2 weeks in a row, one time he rolls up Edge for the win, and then on this week's SmackDown he gets the victory via count out. Then just like the other time, after the match, Umaga comes out there and attacks CM Punk after the match. And I don't know about any of y'all, but the one match for Judgment Day that just got signed this past week that I'm really looking forward to is CM Punk versus Umaga. Definitely interested in it a lot, and it's probably the one match on Judgment Day because we already know that Jeff Hardy and Edge, that's going to deliver a good match, and maybe one other match that might happen that might get added to Judgment Day with the way that SmackDown ended. That could be very good as well, but I'll get to that when I discuss the main event. But definitely looking forward to Umaga versus CM Punk at Judgment Day. It's probably the one match I'm looking forward to the most. And overall, like I said, SmackDown right now is my favorite show as far as TV goes for wrestling. And it's probably the only show out of WWE that I'm actually looking forward to. Almost all the feuds and almost all the matches for Judgment Day that's a SmackDown match are probably going to be very good. Then the next thing that they did was, now this was the one portion of SmackDown that, other than the Mike Knox versus R-Truth match, which I wouldn't classify that as a terrible match, but it was kind of a throwaway TV match, and that's what it was supposed to be anyway. This was the one part of SmackDown that I could have dealt without. This was the whole Eve versus Layla arm wrestling match with Crime Time being out there. Now, as bad as this segment was, I got to give Crime Time some credit here that as bad as this segment was and as idiotic as this segment was, Crime Time, at least with them being out there on the mic and them being a part of this segment, they made it a little better than what it would have been without them being out there. And Crime Time's so over with the crowd, I kind of, look past this segment a little bit just because, the crowd was into the segment due to Crime Time. And I got to say, WWE needs to get it through their head that Crime Time is still very over with the crowd. No matter, right now they're on SmackDown. They're still over with the crowd. WWE, you need to get it through your heads that, you need to push this tag team and do something with them. Even though I'm not personally a fan of Crime Time, I can at least say, they're over with the crowd. And the smart thing to do when you got someone that's over with the crowd and you're not even really pushing them, but yet they're staying over with the crowd, you need to utilize them at some point down the line. So far, that was the only segment or anything part of SmackDown that I would say I could have passed and could have dealt without being on SmackDown was the whole Eve and Layla thing. But apparently they've been doing this with Eve and Layla, I guess, the past 2-3 weeks on SmackDown. And then the next matchup was Dolph Ziggler versus Great Khali. At first, Dolph Ziggler came out there and he said, I'm challenging anyone backstage and anyone to take on. Then Great Khali comes out there And this was, just like you would expect, pretty much a squash. Great Khali was dominating him. The only thing I had a problem with was the way the match ended. Instead of Khali, dominating him for about 3-4 minutes and just squashing him and hitting the chop on the head, Dolph Ziggler got himself disqualified when he brought a steel chair in the ring and started hitting Khali with it. It probably would have worked out a whole lot better if Dolph Ziggler would have just got dominated the whole time and would have just this would have been a complete squash, and Khali would have just, beat him very quick. That probably would have worked out better, and it would have made more sense, with Dolph Ziggler calling him out than, kind of like, Honky and Ultimate Warrior kind of have it be a very quick match, and he thinks, he's a big guy in WWE, Dolph Ziggler, and then just someone comes out there and beats him. I think that would have worked out a little better. Then Edge comes out for the main event on commentary. And the main event, like I said earlier, was Jeff Hardy versus Chris Jericho. The rules of this match were if Chris Jericho was able to defeat Jeff Hardy, Chris Jericho would get added to the Edge versus Jeff Hardy match and make it a triple threat at Judgment Day. And just like you would expect to be with these two, they put on a good match. Now, we've obviously seen better out of these two, but for a TV match, and it got maybe 13, 15 minutes, it was a pretty good overall enjoyable match. And Jeff Hardy does go over in this match by defeating Chris Jericho with the Swanton Bomb. Rey Mysterio was out there at one point because Chris Jericho was trying to, get the cheap victory in this match, so you saw Rey Mysterio come out there. And then after the match, Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho got at it, so looking like they might be adding a Chris Jericho versus Rey Mysterio IC title match at the Judgment Day pay-per-view, or if they don't add it to the Judgment Day pay-per-view, it's going to be a match at this upcoming Friday night SmackDown this week. But it looks like, for the most part, especially since it ended the show on SmackDown, it will make the most sense to add that match to the Judgment Day pay-per-view. So, like I said, overall, I enjoyed this WWE SmackDown. I definitely would say people check it out. If you can check it out on Friday nights, if you got a DVR it. If you got a DVD recorder, set a timer. And in some markets, they actually replay SmackDown later on in the evening on Friday night after it first airs. Because I know in the market that airs SmackDown in my area, I know, you get the 8 to 10 p.m., when it first shows, and then I think sometime after midnight it replays again. So I don't know if it does that in every area, but you got to check that out. Or, you got Daily Motion, YouTube, you look it up, you'll be able to find, SmackDown and all the WWE programs on there after they air on TV. And so overall, I enjoyed this show, and definitely, I don't know if I just tuned into a very good overall SmackDown that I enjoyed, or if overall SmackDown's the best show, but from this show right here, it definitely proved that it's the best WWE show going right now, and I would even say it's the best wrestling show, period, going on right now. Definitely, I would say, it's better than Raw, better than ECW, better than Impact, and since it has, wrestling plus storylines, I would kind of have to, give it the overall better show than ROH on HDNet. Even though I like the Ring of Honor show on HDNet, I just think they need to have a little more better format for their Ring of Honor show and a little more storyline involvement until that show, really progresses as a great show. But overall, it's still a good show. So SmackDown and the Ring of Honor show right now is probably the most enjoyable shows. And right now, like I said, I think SmackDown's the best show going on right now. And, you got Judgment Day coming up this Sunday, which for the most part, Judgment Day is never really a good pay-per-view. Like the last couple of years, and pretty much ever since Judgment Day has always been, one of the worst WWE pay-per-views of the year. But overall, this Judgment Day doesn't look like it will be a bad pay-per-view. You got Christian versus Jack Swagger for the ECW title again. See anything like their match at Backlash or any of the other matches they had against each other on ECW on Sci-Fi. Should be a great match. You got possibly Chris Jericho versus Rey Mysterio getting at it as an IC title match. Them two could put on a very good match. Now the Cena versus Big Show match, not looking forward to that, but even though I've never really been a fan of Big Show, that kind of already, puts a little damper in it because I don't really like him that much anyway. But John Cena and Big Show, they have put on, at least decent matches in the past. WrestleMania 20, they put on an okay opener on that pay-per-view. And John Cena and him work decent together, so it might not be a bad match. It's going to be watchable at best. It's probably just going to be average at best, if it's even good. Orton and Batista for the WWE title. Now, this is one of those matches that is probably not going to be that good. Because they've had a match, I can't remember what pay-per-view it was last year, but I know they had a match at some pay-per-view last year, and it was just god-awful. Hopefully this time Batista actually shows up, and that's pretty much what it depends with any Batista match. It depends if he actually shows up and wants to perform a good match, because he can do a good match when he wants to, so hopefully him and Orton do something good. Orton's overall a very good in-ring performer, and probably one of the better guys in WWE, and probably one of the best workers in WWE, in period, in my opinion, and hopefully that'll be good. Edge versus Jeff Hardy, we obviously know that's not going to disappoint, so got a couple matches there. Looks like it's going to be a overall good pay-per-view for Judgment Day, so I just want to come on here, kind of do a video telling you that right now I think Smackdown is the best overall wrestling TV show going on right now. Leave your comments and what you think. Do you think Smackdown's the best show going right now? Or what other wrestling show do you think is doing the best job right now? And overall, I'm going to say Judgment Day card so far looks like it might be pretty good. I'll be doing my thoughts on Ring of Honor's episode number 8 this past Saturday's Ring of Honor HDNet episode tomorrow. And then later on this week, I'll be giving my predictions for the Judgment Day pay-per-view. Then obviously, late Sunday night, early Monday, I'll be giving my thoughts on the Judgment Day pay-per-view. And yeah, that's it for this video. Peace.